He's a singer, songwriter and actor who became a famous teen idol. He first surfaced on the American TV show Shindig, and then in the comedy series Here Come the Brides. He was known for his very fashionable shaggy hairstyle and his winning smile. He guested on shows like The Partridge Family, the Monkees and Mod Squad. But then Bobby Sherman seemed to disappear from his high-profile celebrity life. So where did he go? And what's he been doing? That's exactly what I was determined to find out. Bobby Sherman and his wife Bridget are with me now.
Hey, Sandy, knock.
Who's there?
Hutch.
Hutch?
You're supposed to say achoo.
Just gave it away.
Yeah.
Achoo. Oh, achoo. Bobby Sherman, who knew you had such a stupid sense of humour?
Bobby is a natural-born comedian. In his next life, he should actually be a comedian because he's really good at ad-libbing on the spot.
I'm really just a natural pessimist. No.
But seriously, you always had a leaning for comedy?
Yes, Bobby has. He won't admit it, but I can tell you for 25 years with Bobby, he's always been a comedian.
Really?
Yeah.
I guess so.
So let's start with growing up, Bobby. You were a bit of a football jock at high school, weren't you?
Not really. Basically, in high school, I played football, and I did pretty well. But when I went on to college, and then I didn't play football there.
What were you studying at college?
Basically, child psychology.
Really?
Yeah. I was thinking about becoming a child psychologist.
And you were railroaded, weren't you? Can you tell us the story about how you were discovered as a singer?
Basically, I played in the dance band, and I was musically inclined, period. And then there was a private party being held for the cast of The Greatest Story Ever Told, the George Stevens picture. I happened to be invited to it, and it would be easier to say who wasn't there rather than who was there, because there was just everybody was there. And two of the people who I absolutely loved was there was Jane Fonda and Natalie Wood, and Sal Mineo was the one that was running the party. And I was there in awe, and somebody knew I happened to sing, whatever, because I would sing at parties or stuff like that. They said, "Come on, Bobby, sing." And I said, "Oh, no, it's not my party." And they said, "Come on, please, Bobby, please." And so I said, "Well, what do you got?" So they had a record player and a stack of 45s. I said, "Well, I'll try." And so I went through it, and there was bang to it, and everyone seemed to love it. And there was a couple of people there that were, they said, "Well, hey, you're pretty good. Who's handling you?" And I didn't know what to make of that because I thought it was suggestion. And I said, nobody. Next thing I know, they sent me to an agent who said, "Hey, we'd like to handle you." And I said, "Well, okay, what do I do?" They said, "Well, we'll give you a call." And they did. And there was a cast. I don't know if it was casting. It was an audition of some sort for a show that was going to be called Shindig. And I went to ABC Studios, and they just said, "Okay, we'll do something." And I, so guess what I did? Freddie Cannon's Palisade Park. And they said, "Okay, you're pretty good," and they said, "Well, we'll get back to you." And they did. And they said, "How would you like to do 26 of our shows?" And I had no idea what I was doing. And I said, "So what am I supposed to do?" And next thing I know, they had me kind of like up and rehearsing. And next thing I know, I was doing 26 shows called Shindig.
From ABC Television Center in Hollywood, Shindig.
Kind of blossomed from there, and I lucked out. All I can say. And then I was getting a lot of mail and a lot of good responses, and so they decided that they should keep this guy, and which I did. I stayed with him for a while, and then I ended up doing some stuff for ABC television, and I did a lot of series, a lot of guest shots, things like that, and that kind of wove itself into the acting career. one thing led to another. And I wasn't sitting there formulating it. I just kind of went with the flow.
Amazing. So singing had always been a love of yours. You said that you used to sing when you went to other people's parties. Were you formally trained to sing, or is it something that you just like to do?
I took a couple of singing lessons kind of thing. And the lady who was a vocal coach, that was it. That was my formal training. And I was doing shows and I was doing guest shots. I just kept going. And one thing led to another. And next thing I know, I'm doing, I'm getting 25,000 letters a week.
Had you come from a musical family?
Well, my dad played guitar and I played trumpet at that point. So family or whatever would come over. He played guitar and I played trumpet. And everyone got a big kick out of it. And so it kind of like just kept going. And I think it was because of that I was able to make it work into a career.
All right. So when you started with ABC, you mentioned you were getting something like 25,000 fan letters a week. How did that feel for you? Were you a bit overwhelmed?
Well, I was very overwhelmed. But I think really what it came down to was that the success of Here Come the Brides, which was a show that I did, and that's when the mail really started coming in. And then people were calling me a teenage idol. And I wasn't sure if I resented that or not, but I said, okay. But at the same time, I was shy. But somehow being in front of the camera and all that, it kind of like lifted that shyness. And I did my job, and then I kind of go home and hide.
What do you mean you went home and hide? Were you able to have a social life yourself?
Not really. No, I was really kind of a recluse.
Bobby actually is very shy. That's the word. So am I, actually.
Really? Bridget, were you a fan of Bobby's? You're obviously too young to have known him when he made it big.
Thanks, Andy.
I was 13 years old when I first saw Bobby on American Bandstand. I never went to his concerts, never had any posters on my wall because we were very poor. But I did every now and then put my foot down because I wanted to watch Here Come the Bride. So my mom finally said, okay, once a month I get to watch Here Come the Bride. The rest of the time, my brother and sisters took over the TV set.
So you saw him on TV when you were 14 years old. Did you have a crush on him then?
Yeah. I thought he was good looking. I was so young and naive. We came from refugees from Indonesia. I just thought he was cute and adorable.
He was.
I still am.
Yes.
You still are. That's right. That's exactly what I was going to say, Bobby Sherman. Absolutely. Bobby, so if you were so shy and living this kind of reclusive life and, as you put it, a bit of a loner, you were out there with hundreds of thousands of adoring girls who just wanted to get close to you. Was there anybody that you had a crush on?
Basically, Natalie Wood and Jane Fonda, because, I knew them and they were stars. And I was lucky to know them. That was kind of it. I was too busy to really settle down with one particular person because I was always on the go, and I was always working.
Just one look, I feel so I'm in love with you. Oh, I found out.
Bobby preferred not taking people in show business.
I understand that. Jane Fonda, I think I had a crush on. I think I've still got a girl crush on these days. She was amazing. And Natalie Wood was equally beautiful. So when all these girls had their teenage crushes on you, there was nobody that you'd been at school with. There was only Jane Fonda and Natalie Wood that you could think of. Well,
yeah. I mean, there were girls that I dated, and there was a couple of girls that I, did have crushes on and all that, and they weren't in the business. So it was kind of fleeting because I'd be off doing concerts someplace and I'd be, pretty much alone. And then you'd go out and, in a concert, you'd have, 15, 20,000 kids screaming. where you couldn't even hear yourself think. And it was like a whirlwind kind of life.
And then you go back to the hotel room alone. I've heard it said, although it seems such a glamorous life, it's actually quite a lonely life.
Most definitely.
Oh, you should hear something funny.
All right.
One fan was so desperate to see Bobby, she shipped herself in a box to Bobby. Bobby,
oh, yes.
Go ahead and tell it.
Tell me that story.
Basically, I was in a hotel room, after doing concert, whatever, and there was a knock at the door. And then there was something about a delivery. I don't know who delivered it, actually. But I opened the door, and there's a box. And I, with, basically postage, and it looked very legit. And I wondered, so I opened it up, and there's a girl. And she said, ah! I said, but I went, ah! So,
but it turned out she was underage, so she had to leave the room.
Well,
yeah.
Return to sender?
Return to sender, indeed. It was, but I've had a lot of experience. I've had girls that would climb out on the fire escapes of the hotel rooms. All right, and I was so worried about them falling out and falling down and all that stuff. That I said the security really has to be tightened up, guys. And it wasn't that I was worried about me as much as I was worried about them, because they would throw caution to the wind and just do crazy things in order to get close. So I lucked out.
You were really one of the very first teen idols, weren't you? I put it out on Facebook asking your fans what they would like to know from you, what they would ask you these days if they had an opportunity to. And so many of them still, and they're all obviously women beyond 60. Girls everywhere plastered their walls with photos of you and had all your records and cut out your record on the back of the Raisin Bran packet, collected the beads that you used to wear. There was a lot of merchandise around Bobby Sherman at the time, I remember myself. But a lonely life it was. We didn't stop for a minute to think how life was for you. All that was in our minds was getting a piece of you, getting close to you. Was it an enjoyable experience overall, having all this adoration?
I would say overall, yeah. Once I was able to catch a breath every now and then, yeah, I really did enjoy it. And mainly because I watched them, them being the fans and all that kind of, I watched them enjoy it. And I got more enjoyment out of them than I did out of me. And they were always, I just, it was an incredible experience. I don't know. Everyone said, what's it like to be idolized like that? And I never really thought much about it other than the fact that all I wanted to do was do my best to please my audience. And so there was a lot of stuff that went on that it was very crazy, but all in all, I never got any complaints except from parents. Actually, a lot of people would say, like the Raisin Bran thing, they would basically blame me because the kids would get the box of Raisin Bran and immediately cut out the record, and then Raisin Bran was all over the floor.
They wouldn't eat the cereal.
Yes, I'm sorry.
I got that Raisin Bran. I got off eBay, paid $200 for it. It's over 25 years old. It's probably stale by now, right?
That's hilarious. Is that I can't believe that was even doable technology at the time. I wonder if you could repeat that today. And today, when vinyl is more popular, selling more than CDs, I don't even understand how you could play a record made from paper.
And it did play. I was astonished that they were able to do it. And they sold
up from the back of a cereal box. But he wasn't the only artist to be using breakfast cereal to reach young fans. The Archies, the Monkees and the Jackson 5 did same. Stay tuned as Bobby continues his story. I hope you're enjoying hearing from 60s teen idol Bobby Sherman as much as I'm loving chatting with him. As you've already heard, Bobby is open and receptive to being asked most anything. I wanted to know if he, unlike many of his contemporaries, had been wise with the money he'd been making as a result of all that hard work and millions in record sales. So did he just blow it on expensive cars and lifestyle?
No, I spoiled myself a little bit, but nothing too bad. I bought a Rolls Royce, but that's what I wanted to do.
You bought a house?
And I bought a house and I bought a 727 airplane, but I didn't do that. We did that for a business reason, and we farmed that out for people. So Elton John used it, and actually Elvis used it as well. Colonel Parker used it. So I got basically a lot of good investment. Did a lot of investments in oil and stuff like that. So I was pretty much comfortable for the rest of my life.
You were savvy enough to do that because so many of your contemporaries just blew all that money, and today, when they're a little bit older, have really nothing to show for it anymore.
That's absolutely true, and it's kind of pathetic and sad that makes you sit back and say, I wish they had the wherewithal to where you put money for good use, not just for immediate use. I lucked out.
Yeah, well, you certainly deserved it. They worked you hard for several years. How many years, was that intense period?
I don't know. I was just kind of always busy and doing a lot of guest shots. It kept me active and all that. The Murder, She Wrote and the Cades County.
And you also produced a couple of movies.
Oh, yeah. Did a lot of producing and directing, yeah. So I diversified a lot. I kept myself busy, doing other things than just being, Bobby Sherman.
Yeah. How was that transition into acting for you? Were you confident then with what you were doing, or you were still winging it?
Oh, no, I pretty much felt pretty confident with acting because when I did Here Come the Brides, when that played on ABC television, that's when all of the millions of responses came in. So I was already acting because when I did that, I was Jeremy Bolt for 2.5 years. I did pretty well as an actor.
Bobby, you're this wholesome, all-round nice guy. Don't you have a mean hard edge to you at all?
I don't know. What do you think, Bridget? I just slapped her. No, I'm kidding.
It doesn't sound like you do, or if you do, neither of you are going to tell me about it for sure.
You're right. No, I really don't. I don't think I do. I mean, I don't think I have a hard edge.
I've always been trying to keep everything on the surface, like I keep things amicable, especially when there's a star that felt that he should have better people writing stuff for him on Here Come the Brides. So that's why a lot of times Bobby was not nominated because there was some rivalry competition.
Uh-huh. So the image we saw of Bobby Sherman, no matter what you were doing, was really who you were. There was no kind of Hollywood painting anything different about you. You were this all-round nice guy, and you still are.
Well, thank you. I again, it was one of the things I was learned by my parents to be humble, to be a good boy, God-fearing and everything. And so that's what I did. And I never took the time to let it go to my head.
He was the golden boy who's very well-rounded. He never liked controversy, kept that always away from everything.
How could you not let it go to your head, though? How can you be one of the biggest stars on the planet, the teen idol at the time? I mean, David Cassidy came along a little bit later.
Yeah, David and I were friends. Yeah. But I really just didn't have time to have an ego. I just kept working and doing my thing and trying to teach kids stuff. I loved kids, and that's why I wanted to be a child psychologist. And so I would try to lead them in the right direction. And so that's what kept me busy. And I didn't really have time to sit in front of a mirror. I was fairly content with what God had given me.
I'm sure you would have been much more than just content. You should have been so grateful. A lot of people tell me that they were so busy during the era of the peak of popularity that they almost missed the entire decade. Was that what it was like for you?
Yes, it was very fast, but I managed to always be able to take time to reflect and be appreciative of not only the things that had happened to me, but it was the fans too, because the only reason that you become successful is because of those fans. They're the ones that did it.
Yeah.
And I said, they're the ones who should have all the medals, gold and all that kind of stuff, because, I never bought a Bobby Sherman record.
But basically, Bob, your life was a whirlwind. I mean, there was so much you kept busy that everything, like, hard for Bobby to remember all the little things.
Yeah, there was, a fan club service or that kind of thing that did that stuff. But I had a couple of bad people that, stole money and did some bad things that unfortunately, I felt very bad about. But at the same time, I can't reflect back and say, well, now let me erase this. It's onward, upward, and I just enjoy the life I have.
Yeah, of course. I miss those days of fan clubs. I think they were awesome. Those days have well and truly gone, haven't they?
Oh, yeah. What can I tell you?
So, Bobby, after those few years of intense work, how did it all come to an abrupt halt? What happened? Had you simply had enough? Were you worn out?
No, probably I wanted to ease out of it slowly, but at the same time, it never was abrupt. Things just kind of like I took the initiative of saying, gee, I don't really feel like doing that, or I don't feel like going there, or whatever the case is. And it just, it caught up with me. And at the same time, I didn't want to say poo-poo to anybody. So I don't know how to respond to that, because I never really was aware that it came to an end abruptly. I know it came to an end, but in a different way, because as far as I'm concerned, I'm just doing different things, which makes it a lot different for me.
And you said you started doing different things. What sort of things?
I built a recording studio, and all of a sudden I was recording other people and the producing and stuff like that. I just other things, that took me away from the limelight. which was fine with me. I didn't mind. I mean, I wasn't thirsty for that kind of stardom as much as I was, just to keep active as opposed to hanging up the reins and going away. I still wanted to do things. We have a children's center foundation.
Yeah, I want to talk to you about that. But if we can just, if you don't mind, I'll build up there.
Sure.
So when you kind of took yourself away from the limelight, fans didn't know what had happened to you and were missing you big time, but you resurfaced again when you started working with the LA Police Department.
Well, that's true. Well, I became a medic, an EMTD, D for defibrillation, and I started doing that. And then the LAPD heard about me and my abilities as an EMT and an instructor. So I basically went over there and then went through the whole process of the academy, and I became a police officer, but also I became an instructor. So I would teach new officers their first aid and their CPR. And nothing's funnier than teaching emergency childbirth to some future cops who, when you show them the film and all that, there they are, these big burly guys, who are going to be cops, and they're watching the film and they start passing out. Hey guys, it's getting worse than this. So I did that.
35 years.
Yeah. I was with the LAPD for 35 years.
35 years. How amazing. What got you interested in doing this in the first place?
Well, the medical end of it, first of all, I brought both Christopher and Tyler, my sons. I helped bring them into the world in more than one way in the delivery and all that stuff. So between that and I had a knack for it. So it was easy for me to teach. And then I went with the San Bernardino Sheriff's Department for 8 years and pretty much did the same thing. It was a labor of love. That's all I can tell you. I mean, I really enjoyed every minute of it, and I still do.
Wow. What an incredible change, and to be able to handle the difference in careers and go with it. Did they treat you like the star that you were there, or you were just one of them?
They did a little bit.
Well, yeah, they were a little bit gun shy. If you'll excuse me, yeah. But once they realized I was just one of them, and I just happened to know some things more than they did, and that's why I'm going to teach them. Then they took it all in stride, and they all became friends. And every now and then I run into some of them out there in the field, and they say, "Hey, Officer Sherman, how you doing?" I was like, "Guys, fine. How about you guys?" "We're fine." "Hey, I had to deliver a baby the other day." I say, "Good for you guys." So one of my triumphs is the fact that I delivered a roadside delivery of a little girl.
Did you?
And the mother pointed to her little daughter, who was just born, and pointed to her and said, "Roberta."
You were just present in the room in the hospital. You didn't actually do the delivery yourself.
I didn't do the hands-on. No, I didn't want to do that because I think I would have been too emotional. It was emotional anyway, but it went smoothly. I never had any problems.
Wait a second. You told me in the delivery room you couldn't understand why all the yelling, the screaming was right from the pain.
Yeah, I just said, I don't understand what's all about. I find this absolutely painless.
But in those days, it was very unusual for fathers to even be present in the delivery room, wasn't it?
That's absolutely correct. Yes, you had to get permission, and you had to assure them that you knew what you were doing, which I did. And a couple of the doctors that I ran into, they already knew. They say, "Hey, you want to help? I'm making a delivery. You want to help me out?" Because they could use it.
Bobby has a love also for Disney. Bobby built Disney Main Street in his backyard.
I love the Disney thing, and Disneyland was something that when I went to I don't remember how old I was, but I went to it and I fell in love with it, and I started building. I came home and got scraps of balsa wood and started building a little miniature Disneyland in my folks' backyard. And they let me do it. That probably was a big point of it, because if they said, "No, you can't," because they took up 23 feet by 23 feet of the backyard. And my folks said, "Okay, go ahead." After that, then I basically built another one, this 1/5 scale of Main Street. And that was up for quite a while. And then the elements got to that. And then Bridget got herself involved and had the same street built in the backyard. So it's there now. It's still getting a lot of attention.
And we had a grand opening where he was there with John Stamos and Bobby, cut the ribbon, and with all the neighbors passing by, stopping by for last month.
They still do.
Yeah, they still do.
I'm walking right down the middle of Main Street, USA.
How many many talents can one man have? You can sing, you can act, you can play instruments, you can administer CPR and deliver babies, and you can build things. You're a handyman as well. Wow, Bridget, you lucked out.
Yeah,
thank you, Andy. Thank you. What can I say except that, it's upbringing. I didn't set out to say this is what I'm going to do next. They just happened.
So he never planned anything. Even his meeting with his now second wife, Bridget, came as a complete surprise. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in a sec to find out about the many ways that Bobby and Bridget make the lives of hundreds of children a whole lot better. I'm sure you'll agree the story of Bobby Sherman's journey to the top of the hit parade and his subsequent career change is a fascinating one. After his first marriage failed, Bobby wasn't looking for love again, but when he met Bridget Poublon, he immediately knew he had found it.
Somebody that she was dating at the time, she had said something about Bobby Sherman, and he got in touch with my manager and said, what would it take for Bobby to show up at my girlfriend's 40th birthday party? And at first I was kind of reluctant, but basically I got there.
It was a surprise birthday party. I was only supposed to be there 20 minutes, and then Bobby stayed there like the whole party for 2 hours. And he held my hand the whole time.
I had been teaching a class at the academy, so I was in uniform. When she came through the door and saw me standing there in uniform, I don't think she knew who I was right away, but I think she thought I was a male stripper.
I did first.
She probably would have loved that.
Yeah, no, it took a second.
At that particular point, we met and
we kept in touch because the philanthropy work I was doing, and Bobby made a lot of appearances at the fundraiser site that I chaired as well.
Yeah.
Bridge, you obviously liked Bobby Sherman. That's why your boyfriend thought to bring him to your party. You were obviously enamored with him.
Yes, he was very much a gentleman and an officer, just like the movie.
An officer, gentleman, yes.
Yeah, and I figured he had a girlfriend. I never asked him. He thought I had a fiance at the time or a boyfriend at the time, so we never really quite cleared that story till a little later. During the courting period, Bobby was always a gentleman. I mean, I said he would pick me up, drop me off, pick me up, and drop me off. So it's like a year and a half probably before we acclimated our relationship.
He's the perfect man. He's got it all. Tell me he cooks too.
Yes, he does.
And I do.
Oh, yeah.
He's got it all.
First 22 years, Bobby did all the cooking.
Yeah, I love to cook. I really was great at barbecues.
Does he put the rubbish out too, Bridge? The trash?
Yes, he did. But not everything. Now we have the back house, so I kind of have my staff here.
He's finally allowed a bit of rest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bobby, so it was 2010 when you married Bridget. In the 90s, you came back as a singer again because you joined Peter Noon and Davy Jones with the Teen Idol tour. Why did you decide to get involved with that?
Well, that was my old manager at that particular point said this could be a very lucrative deal. And so Davey agreed, and Peter agreed, and I agreed. The next thing I know, we're on stage and thousands of people screaming, just like the old days. And we had a wonderful time.
I'd imagine it would be all the girls that had loved you as teenagers. Were they also bringing their own children, grandchildren with them?
Yes, absolutely. But they didn't act like adults. They acted like kids again.
I remember Bobby telling me, they got older. Their underwear also became bigger. They used to sew underwear to Bobby on stage when they were younger. So underwear got bigger too. Yeah. We stopped touring right when 9/11 hit.
Right. You keep yourself so well these days, Bobby. One of your fans wrote to me and asked me to ask you if Julie loved you too.
If Julie loves me, yes. Will she still be there? That was my closing song. And every time I get to that line, will you still be there? There was this big uproar about, yes. And it's absolutely amazing.
Bobby sang the song on his recording studio and changed it to Julie to my name. That was pretty special.
Aren't you lucky? Was Julie a real person?
Julie, thank you for 1 second. It was a wonderful song. It sold a lot.
And after 9/11, that's when we started opening up our foundation to kind of diversify. Yeah. And we opened up an orphanage and a youth center in Ghana, Africa.
Yeah. So you and Bobby had that in common, that love of children and wanting to help children that had come from both your childhoods.
That's right. And that wasn't how we connected, but that was one of the things that connected us and kept us going and making us go into the to the foundation so that we could help, kids out there. It's still going strong.
We also serve 300 meals a day to people in our communities. And hopefully one day when we ever let go of our musical village, it will turn into like a soup kitchen just to help poverty with feeding people. Right now, we have 45 students in there. They've got everything they could possibly think of.
Wow. What an amazing legacy to leave. And people can donate towards this foundation, can't they?
Yes, they can. We do have a website. It's just really a love interest. It's a labor of love.
Would you say that this foundation is one of the things that you're most proud of in your life?
We help a lot of local charities. It's just I don't brag about it. I don't publicize it. I just love helping children, period.
Bridget's got a very large heart, and that's one of the things that attracted me to her.
Yeah. So you actually feed people in your local community too?
I've been so blue. I'll never smile again unless I smile with you.
What's it like for you singing with your wife, Bobby?
I try to bring the best out in her, and if she's not doing it right, I said, let's do it again.
Bridget, how do you take his coaching?
At first, I was irritated by it, but then I just realized he's trying to help me improve it. It did help eventually when I started taking singing lessons. Of course, with singing lessons, they teach you opera. And if you could hit those notes, you can hit anything you can. So that really helped me once I started taking singing lessons. He really hasn't sang any duets with other than professionally, other than me.
Right.
So that was very nice.
Really? In your whole career, no duets?
Not really, not other than being on Shindig and stuff like that.
Bobby, is there anybody that you wanted to do a duet with, or you were always happy singing by yourself?
Well, not really. Other than like when I did the Partridge Family, David and I did something, then we enjoyed that. Oh, that's Stephanie, yeah, okay.
Stephanie, whose eyes are blue, what would life be like with you? I've just been wondering, and I'd sure like to see if you've been thinking the same about me.
David Soul and I did, from Here Come the Brides, David and I did a couple of things in my studio, and we got along great.
Your life sounds like it's been awesome so far. What do you do with your time today? I know that you cook. I know that you put no, you don't put the trash out anymore. I know that you're still recording with Bridget. How else do you spend your time, Bobby?
Not really watching television and
Bobby's also learning too that all the stuff he didn't get to do when he was younger, going back to he missed a lot of the TV shows he never got a chance to watch.
Yeah, it's true.
It sounds like you were so busy during your heyday that now you've got a bit more time to put your feet up and catch up with what you missed.
Yeah, I think basically I take the time to relax and put my feet up. I'm finding other things to get involved in. I'm taking my time. That's, I guess, what I can say, Sandy. I'm just taking it slow.
Bobby still enjoys crossword puzzles too.
Yeah.
Nice. And I'd imagine that Bridget keeps you eating healthily and active physically.
I'm trying to get Bobby a little more motivated, but, being more active. And I don't push him, but I'm trying to because I want him to be around with me a long time.
Yeah, well, why wouldn't you? Perfect man you have there. Bobby, does it surprise you that so many of us have actually kept your records and souvenirs 50-something years later?
Oh, absolutely. Well, they're a collector's item, so that might be worth something.
eBay, here we come.
I'm very flattered by it. And in fact, a couple of people come up with, some of the 16 magazines and stuff like that. And I said, where did you get that? I said, well, I saved it. It's neat that they still admire the good old days, so to speak.
Yeah. If you look back on your life, Bobby Sherman, would you do it all the same way, or is there something that you'd change?
I don't think so. It's pretty hard to say, okay, now let me stop and now back up and change that, change this or change that, other than my voice. I don't think so. It's all fallen into place, and I'm very happy. As we go through life, we all make mistakes and wish this had been a little different than that. But at the same time, it's kind of too late to start changing horses. So I'm fine.
If you do look back on your life now, is there one most fond memory apart from the day that you met your wife?
We got married twice. I got my really beautiful Cinderella wedding with a Cinderella coach with horses.
So 2018, you redid your vows completely and had a whole new wedding. Bridget, has anybody wanted to make a movie out of your life?
I've been asked that before.
I think you're right. I think it would be.
Well, thank you. I'm not quite ready to share that. There's going to be a time where I'm ready to share everything to help other kids in the world of what I went through.
Bobby Sherman, do you have a message for your listeners? What would you say to them?
Oh, just enjoy life, be respectful of others, and trust in the Lord. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah. You've got to live every day, don't you, as though it could be your last, and enjoy it and put all those silly little arguments behind you because nothing's important.
No, absolutely. And I always used to say that the minute you're born, you begin to die. What? And I said, but you know what? It's true. So it's one of those things, just live it the fullest you can and the most righteous way you can.
Yeah. It's funny how we understand so much more as we get older, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
Unfortunately, youth is wasted on the young, isn't it?
Yeah. Bridget, you haven't got that old yet. You're not qualified, I don't think, to answer.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a compliment the other day. People didn't realize I was 65, but I do work hard at it. It's not easy.
Thank you both so very, very much for your time. Bridget and Bobby Sherman, an absolute delight chatting with you.
Thank you very much. And you be safe and through these troubled times. And God bless you and to you and yours.
Bridget and Bobby Sherman there. If you'd like to donate to the children's foundation they run, the website address again is bbscfoundation.org. It was so good to hear how well Bobby's doing. He's about to turn 80 and is so content with a life that's given him the love of a wife, 2 sons and 6 grandchildren. Hope you'll join me again same time next week. Take care, won't you, until we meet again. I'll look forward to seeing you then.